Okay, fifth grade. So we're going to continue with writing for today for Wednesday. So we're going to move on. Today, our goal is to imagine the thoughts and feelings and actions of our characters. So we're going to think about characters. This is going to tie into understanding what point of view means. By writing personal narratives, it is important to put yourself inside the skin of the main character. And the character that you're going to be writing about is you. It's just talking about you from a different time and place. So what we're doing is we're kind of building ways that are going to help us become better writers when we're writing our own personal narratives. And so we're going to look at ways to do that. So I'm going to give you guys some examples. And the example we're going to do today is I'm going to read something from a from a narrator's perspective. So we're going to do that, and you're going to share that with your partner. And then for Thursday and Friday, you're going to be picking your own to write about, and we're going to be starting our own personal narratives. Okay. So, what does point of view mean? So every story is written with a point of view. If everything in the story is happening directly to you, that's called first person. If you are the narrator who is objectively telling the story, it is called third person. So if you're telling a story about something that happened versus you telling the story from your point of view. Okay. So I'm going to, we're going to listen and imagine. So I'm going to read you a story from the character's point of view, which is the first person. And while I'm reading, I want you to um, think about if it's still written in first person from the character's perspective. So we're going to read that. Okay. So I want you to listen. So we're going to do so once you're used to staying inside your own perspective, it's not hard to watch for instances where, oops, you slip out of it. So we're going to be practicing and noticing a story when it suddenly loses its grounding. So I want you to listen to the story and I want you to think, is this point of view working? Okay, so we're going to do that. Here we go. I stood alongside my bike at the top of the hill. My brother Alex waited as I made up my mind. In front of me, the road lay like a ribbon. I'm ready, I thought. I swung my leg up, climbed onto the seat, and pushed the pedal. So far, am I still reading from the point of view of the narrator? Yeah, I am. Soon I was slipping down the road. Faster and faster, the world zoomed past me. Trees, boulders, woods, browns, grays, greens, a blur of color. So, am I still reading from the narrator's perspective? I am. Let's continue. Then something darted in front of me. I swerved to avoid it, lost my balance, and headed into the wild brush on the side of the road. My bike flipped, and suddenly I saw nothing. My brother went inside for help because he wondered if I was alive. So I want you to think, how did that story work so far? Okay. So I want you to think about it. When I ended my story, did I continue to stay in that point of view or that perspective of the narrator? So it said, above me I saw my brother's face. You alive? He asked. I turned my head this way and that. It felt like thunder inside my brain. I guess so, I answered, and wondered if anything was broken. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to think, at what point in that story did I lose the point of view? Before I read this part, I'm going to read this again. So it says, then something darted in front of me. I swerved to avoid it. I lost my balance and headed into the wild brush on the side of the road. My bike flipped, and suddenly I saw nothing. My brother went inside for help because he wondered if I was alive. So that last line, it kind of switches point of view because now the narrator is telling the story from someone else's point of view. In this instance, he's talking about his brother, what his brother is doing. His brother went inside to ask for help because he wondered if he was still alive. So that right there is kind of where I lose that point of view. Okay, so that's I know that that's that point where I do that. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of an entry that you'll be writing today. Okay, and I want you to think about how could that start. So I'm going to go, so the part where I lost my point of view, you're going to rewrite the story where I left off. Okay, so it's your turn to take over and rewrite the story from there. So the story ended with my bike flipped and suddenly I saw nothing. I want you to continue the story, and I'm going to put it on the next slide. I want you to continue that story. Continue writing from his perspective. Give me details, add some action, do whatever it is that you want to add to that story that's going to continue to keep it in the point of view of the narrator. Okay, so that's the activity you're going to do for me today. When you're doing that, I want you to think about what are some things that are going to keep it in that personal narrative. So we're going to look at, I can post some other examples, but that's what I want you to do. I'm going to put the story on the next slide, and I want you to put yourself in the skin of the character. So make sure that you're the one that was writing, you're the one that fell. I want you to tell me what happens next. So when you write that down, I want you to share it with your partner today. Okay? And that's it.